Good day, everyone. I am Maria Nicole Escobar, and we are going to talk about Philippine laws on gender responsive and gender fair education. I will just discuss and report the rationales and brief description of each programs to shorten the report. Have you ever noticed how we Filipinos have a high regard for our education? Filipinos are perceived to have a deep and high regard for education. Most Filipinos parents always put in the minds of their children as on the onset of attending school that we need to study hard and to do our best in our studies so we will land on a good high paid job. They believe that we will become more competent and independent. The Filipinos' high regard for education comes from the view that education is a pillar of national development and a primary avenue for social and economic mobility. A clear evidence of the value placed on education is the proportion of the national government budget going to the sector, the Department of Education or DepEd. The country's biggest bureaucracy is given the highest budget allocation among government agencies. Each year as required by 1987 Philippine Constitution. The 1987 Constitution likewise guarantees the right to education of every Filipino. It provided that the state shall protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels and shall take appropriate steps to make education accessible to all. Education in the Philippines is a constitutional right. No one should be deprived of education, regardless of one's gender, social status, religion, and etc. Now, numerous laws enforce and protect one's right to education with specific consideration for the issues that arise from one's strategic and practical gender needs. There are six pertinent documents on gender in the Philippines. First is Philippine Development Plan for Women 1989 to 1992 or PDPW. Second, Philippine Plan for Gender Responsive Development 1995 to 2025 or PPGD. Women's Edge Plan, Magna Carta of Women, NEDA's Harmonized Gender and Development Guidelines, and last is CHED's 2010 establishing the policies and guidelines on gender and development in the Commission on Higher Education and the Higher Education Institutions. Two of the mentioned programs are the primary plans that highlight the value of education as an important social sector. These are the PDPW and the PPGD. Let's first talk about the PDPW or Philippine Development Plan for Women. It was approved and adopted in February 19, 1989 through Executive Order 348. It specifically identifies programs and projects to address the following forms of violence against women: domestic violence, rape, sexual harassment, pornography, prostitution, military rapes and sexual abuses, and medical abuse, including unnecessary abortion and cesareans. Rationale for the formulation of PDPW. First is to institutionalize the integration of women's concerns in the development process. Second, to operationalize the constitutional provision on women. The state recognized the role of women in nation building and shall ensure the fundamental equality before the law of women and men. Third, to substantiate in more concrete terms the macro statement in the medium term Philippine Development Plan MTPDP, which flows from the gender equality provision of the Constitution. Women who constitute half of the nation's population, shall be effectively mobilized. And fourth, to comply with international conventions and agreements such as the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW, and the forward-looking strategies for the advancement of women, or FLS, up to the year 2000, to which the Philippines is a signatory. Second is Philippine Plan for Gender Responsive Development 1995 to 2025, or PPGD. Here's the brief description of PPGD. It was signed on September 8, 1995 through Executive Order 273 by President Fidel B. Ramos. It contains the long-term vision of women's empowerment and gender equality and translates the Beijing platform for action into policies and strategies and programs and projects for Filipino women. Rests on a vision of development that is equitable, sustainable, free from violence, respectful of human rights, supportive of self-determination and the actualization of human potentials, and participatory and empowering. It places people at the center and aims to make development work for all groups. However, it recognized that discrimination exists on the basis of gender, class, and ethnicity in the light of historical gender inequities. It puts greater emphasis on women as a disadvantaged group. Women's Edge Plan. The Women's Edge Plan responds to the commitment to realizing the presidential gender vision, from a lack of concern for gender disparities and shortfalls to the promotion of equal gender opportunity in all spheres of public policies and programs. Given its thematic and sectoral priorities, the Women's Edge Plan embodies several laws and policies intended to address gender disparities. It provides the platforms for implementing these laws and policies and monitoring and evaluating their implementation against the envisioned gender equality results and outcomes of the plan. Principal among these laws and policies are those that focus on gender equality and women's empowerment, which the Philippines has committed to implementing. So these policies that mandates for the Women's Edge Plan are the PPGD, which we discussed earlier, the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and the Magna Carta of Women. Magna Carta of Women. So basically, Magna Carta of Women is a comprehensive women's human rights law that seeks to eliminate discrimination against women by recognizing, protecting, fulfilling, and promoting the rights of Filipino women, especially those in marginalized sector. NEDA's Harmonized Gender and Development Guidelines. The set of guidelines subscribe to the idea that development involves the expansion of freedoms and strengthening capabilities. In this connection, it recognizes that equality between women and men is a key women's human right. Participation in development is crucial to the empowerment of women and men. Gender equality means promoting the equal participation of women as agents of economic, social, and political change, and achieving equality between women and men may involve the introduction of specific measures designed to eliminate prevailing gender inequalities and inequities. CHED's 2010 establishing the policies and guidelines on gender and development in the Commission on higher education and higher education institutions. So the guidelines shall apply to CHED, including the central and regional offices, and to all higher education institutions, both private and public. In terms of scope, the guidelines include enabling, enabling mechanisms that CHED and HICE shall establish, such as curriculum development, gender responsive research programs, and gender responsive extension programs. It generally tackles guidelines which seek to introduce and institutionalize gender equality and responsiveness and sensitivity in the various aspects of Philippine higher education. Overall, these programs that we have tackled have a common goal, which is to envision a society that promotes gender equality and women's empowerment and upholds human rights among other development goals.